Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to do a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today we have a suggestion from Alex, Dordeduh, Descânt, groovy as hell Romanian folk metal. So, with a description like that, how could I not be psyched about this? Let's dive into this and see what they're bringing to the table. This feels a bit bright and poppy, so I'm interested in where they take this riff. I love the instruments utilized here, even if it's just a timbre. I got some strings on the outside. Choir as well. There was a temporary choir in there, wasn't there? Oh yeah, hit me with that right cymbal line. Such a tasteful fill too. Bass working on that low end. It's so moody. I love the way that contrasts with the heavier element we had previously. I love how there's frequently three moving ideas going on simultaneously. None of them super melodic. Of course, I'm saying that during this really unified section. But none of them super melodic. But it's the way that they're layering on top of each other to create a more complex section. Yeah. It's just so serene. The whole atmosphere in this section is just very calming, which I think is interesting because a lot of this, I'd still say, is in sort of a metallic realm, but it absolutely is not focusing on any of the weight and the power that metal guitars are usually bringing to the table, that they're usually being utilized for.
Ce-am cunoscut, de-a fost ușor, de-a durut, suflete să îmbogățească, iar la greu să se unească, iar sfârșitul când îmi vine, știu că am făcut lumii un bine, o picătură lângă o mie, în ulciorul cu apă vie, a fost odată ca în povești.
Yeah, so that was wonderful. That really was. Nope, that is not the right one. Let's go back here. That's what I wanted. Oh, that's weird. Oh, why'd that fade? Romanian folk metal. Okay, so that's where that went. For some reason, I remember reading Romanian death metal, and I was really confused why none of that felt deathy. But yeah, it's folk metal, which I think explains a lot of the harmonic resonances throughout the track. A lot of it is focused on sort of positive vibes, and also primarily composed of multiple layered elements rather than singular ideas. So I suppose let's get into that. Layers. Several of these sections, granted, not our opening idea, and whatever our variation on our opening idea is, the thing that comes out of it, which is a bit on the heavier side. Plus, the growled section doesn't follow along with this, but I'd say that only accounts for about 15 to 20% of the track. So we're going to exclude those, talk about that later. The rest of the song, though, is based off of this idea of layered, smaller ideas that come together into a larger whole. This is certainly a song that primary emphasis is on a sum being greater than the parts. If you listen to what just our right guitar or our left guitar or our center guitar or our bass or our vocals are doing, it's not usually very involved. It's a bit on the simpler side, usually fairly repetitive, and on its own is going to be a bit empty because no instrument, from what I heard, deals with chords in too much of a strong capacity. It's how it all comes together when you hear this idea and this polyrhythmic idea overlapping on each other, and then this melody from the center played over that, and then the bass coming in under it, we get this Voltron style music where all the pieces come together to form something phenomenal. And what they're usually aiming for through this is some sort of, at least to me, it's this serene acceptance and uh calming knowledge. Like, I don't, there's a word for all of this and I don't know what it is, but it's just, it's very soothing. Like, you understand your place in something and you have no stresses about anything, and you're just floating with no care because, and it's not because you don't care, but it's because you understand something that allows you to feel this way, something of a positive angle, because not caring kind of leads into nihilism, right? You don't have stresses because nothing matters. That's not what this feels like. This is a positive type of stress freeness. And it just, the way that they can move from one idea to the next and go about crafting a similar vibe with different chord progressions, different note intervals, different ideas altogether, but continuing to utilize this triple layered approach of the left, right, and center guitar, all forming this not hocketed idea in that they're passing the baton between each other to form a larger concept, but where the layers all come together and they're all filling in different spaces, sometimes rhythmically, sometimes harmonically. And the center guitar does tend to have a more melodic element than our two others, and it could be argued that in many of these situations is counterpoint to our vocals, but still works within the realm of the other guitars, and then of course the bass pulling in the low end. Um, Utilizing completely different ideas here, but still crafting that serenity. And it's just gorgeous. So much of this felt like laying on your back and drifting, floating through the stars. Occasionally, well, I don't know how to put this into words because it doesn't make much sense to me, but this is the visual I got. You know when the old cartoons, right? And the animal character would dive into the water, pop up, roll over onto their back, and kind of coast back and then spit the water out of their mouth, right? Very lackadaisically, right? The image I had was that same concept of floating on your back, but through space against the backdrop of the stars and spitting space out of your mouth in the same way that water is in the cartoons. And it's weird, right? But it's exactly what this feels like. It is almost like being reassured of something, so much so that everything's just fine. And I just love that raw positivity that the music encourages through a lot of this. And so that makes it really interesting in the moments when the music doesn't do that. There is a beauty in our opening idea. That unified sound where you have our pedal tone just hitting, I think it was 16th notes, No, maybe it was eighth note. 16th would have been too fast. And then every once in a while, we have a full band accent. Sometimes it's just one note, sometimes it's two, but the accents, when you kind of bring them together, create this larger melody when you look at the phrase as a whole. What this doesn't come together as, though, is something that I would say is serene. It is beautiful for sure. They're not exploring a type of darkness either. It still is rather positive, but because of the staccato element of it, because of this underlying pedal tone, it feels more urgent, more immediate. There's a type of stress to it. While the melody that sits above that we would craft out of the accented notes is beautiful, the fact that we do have so much space between the accented hits, the fact that we have this pedal bed underneath us constantly there. We just want to listen to the beauty, and there's always this dum 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 sitting underneath it, almost calling our attention to a darkness beneath. It's difficult to ignore that. And so we have this contrast here in the beginning where we want to feel this brightness, this positivity, um, this possible serenity that the melody is alluding to, but it's given to us in pockets, in packets, in these quick spurts that we actually have to take these pieces and put them together over a larger period of time to even see it. And between getting this information, we have this darkness, this tension, this want to move and go do something but stuck in place. That's what fills in the space between getting the pieces of this puzzle. And so it almost feels like wanting something more but not being able to. And all you really have to do is zoom out far enough to see the bigger picture, but we're all captured by time. Much like in the immediate moment of being in a stressful situation, it's difficult to see the larger picture because you're stuck in this moment and you have to live it second by second. The same is true for the music. We can't skip to the end of this section and view it all unless we have the sheet music, but in the listening process, we just have to explore it as it comes at us. We are defined by the time. And so we have to see the section through to the end, and not until the very end, when the section is over and we are out of it, can we see the larger picture and understand this melody that's been crafted through these accented notes, through these staccato notes. And I think that's a really gorgeous thing going on there. I don't know if that's necessarily what they're going for, but to contrast the pure soundscape serenity that we have in a lot of the track with this sort of stress. It's not a stressful section, but it does imply stress. And the stress is found between the moments of beauty, and it disrupts the larger picture. I just think it's really cool to contrast those two ideas. Of course, between them is also the growling bit, and I have no idea how to interpret that in the story that I'm being told through the music. Maybe when we get to the lyrics, that might help, but I also don't know what was specifically said there, and I have to translate it. Like, I've translated lyrics, so I don't even necessarily. I can't even go back to the lyric video and try to pair things up. So, um, yeah, maybe I won't know. Maybe I can't know that for this video, but it is really interesting to hear that point of aggression not too far after the tense section. Both times it happens. We have that tension and then the heavier section and then the growling and then several sections of serenity. And I mean, unless it's just an escalation of the tension until it breaks or until we are given this knowledge to reach that serenity. I don't know. It's really interesting though. Now, beyond the layers of it all that we have in here and the contrast between the two styles of the unified attacks versus the multi-layered, uh, what should we even call it? Just the building block section. Several individual elements. The sum of the parts. Nope. Greater than the sum of the parts section. That does not roll off the tongue. Anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about. We also have something that I think is really important in here, which is just the chordal and emotional resonance of everything. The song consistently wants to sit within this bright, resolving chord progression. Well, I say bright because it's uplifting. It gives me power listening to it, but it's not. It's kind of dull actually when you think about it. It sort of just is, which I think fits in. That's the word I was going for, or the feeling. There is this calming peace, right? And I think what's more important about this, I keep using the word serenity, and I think it evokes this specific kind of peace that isn't dark for sure. We're actually pretty far away from the tension or the stress or the anxiety of more of a darker tone, but it isn't bright and poppy either. It actually crafts a very specific balance between those two in the middle, where we're not ecstatic or elated or energized or any of the more positive elements that we would have from like punk or brighter rock sounds, but we also don't have any of the darkness that we would have from darker rock or metal tracks either. It actually perfectly captures this middle point feeling of just being. Maybe serenity isn't the word I want. Maybe it's just the pure element of existence, is what this song makes me feel. And so the title of the track, though, Descânt, it actually translates to disenchant, which is kind of the opposite of where I'm going in that I almost feel enchanted by the music. It's pulling me out of any disenchantment I might have with reality and showing me a possibility of just pure existence, of simply being, possibly in the moment. This idea of just coasting through space is something that I consistently fall back to while listening to this track. And so I'm interested getting into the lyrics and see what's going on there. Um I wish we could get into more of the specifics, but there's so many different sections in here that I don't remember all of them, but I do need to check out more of this album. That is for sure. This was just gorgeous. So yeah, let's dive into the lyrics. This track appears to be about, well, it's sort of a mantra, but also it's a directive to do everything you can to not fall into the escapism of the world and to experience it in the best ways possible and also leave it in a better state than it was when you got here. Possibly. The translations are all a little. I'm sure there's a lot being lost in translation. I'm looking at both Deep L and Google, and they're both weird in different ways, so I'm trying to find the midpoint between them. There's also a lot of lyrics in here, but it is cyclical in a linear route where we have like an A, B, C, D, and the D ends up being a lot of instrumental work, which is where a lot of the atmospheric soundscapes came from. And then we start back at the beginning, and you may have noticed that in the music when we repeated that genty um, staccato accented section, the unified one, and then moved back into the heavier part, and then the growling part, and then back into the soundscapes. It does have this larger loop in play. And the lyrics mirror that as well. But it starts off with almost a directive. It says, "Go, go, go again. Don't join the wanderers. My path in life, untie it." Almost as if to say, continue to take steps forward. Don't follow in the footsteps of others. Do new things, break the mold, and find a way to separate yourself from the mundanities of life. Explore it to the max. Such a 90s thing to say. I'm definitely not a 90s kid. Explore life to the max. Um, my voice is trying to give out. I got real southern there. I love this part right here where it says with no spell enchanted by no spell subdued. So don't add any enchantments to the world. Don't try to make things look better than they are. Take everything at face value and don't allow yourself to be stopped by the spells others have casted. Right? I love that. That is such a good little stanza there. It says, don't let anything get in the way of you, not even your name and your appearance. You are more than what you present yourself as. It says, in the sign of disobedience, for nature's healing, with this I sing, I have disenchanted every spell. That's just so good. And then at that point, we pretty much cycle it over. We go through a lot of the same ideas. But it ends, and I love this. This really ties everything together for me. It says, and in the end, when it comes to me, I'm going to assume death, I know I did the world a favor. One drop next to 1,000 in the pitcher of living water. So good about just, making sure that you leave the world off in a better place than when you got here. Make sure that you've done some things to better those around you or the planet itself. Yeah. So, this whole idea of the music attempting to find serenity amidst the chaos, to find a state of being of yourself and moving past all of the garbage filters that we use, whether we are visually filtering or auditorily filtering. The way that we have corporate speak that hides their true intentions and stuff like that. Like, don't wear a mask. Be who you are. Say what you need to say. Look past all of the illusions, find the truth of the world, and correct what you can and make the world better tomorrow. So that when death comes for you, you will know that you did the world a favor. God, that's just so good. Yeah, I'm checking out more of this band. This is just going straight in my list. I know I'll get messages 6 months from now. Hey, it's been 6 months. You checked them out yet? My list is so long, but they're in the list. That's I'm being more picky with the list because it's so long these days. But being in the list, I will get to them eventually. Those are my thoughts on Dordeduh's Descânt. This is where y'all come in. What did you think of this track? Was there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on, or maybe just something completely different than what I had touched on? You have a different perspective on things or different things stood out to you? Let me know down in the comments. Above the comment section is a description box, and in there is a link for Linktree. It takes you to this menu right here. It has multiple links in there. You can find stuff for the channel, like ways to support it. You can find links to my music. Find a link to the Discord community if you want to chat with the rest of the Critical Reaction community and the awesome people here. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Greatly appreciate all three. We have a creator request coming up next. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we'll be checking out an album review. Sunday, there will not be a live stream, but I will be back Monday. We're going to be checking out a bass-focused week. It's going to be real good. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.